All right, this is Two Cent back with my 2 cents on Diablo, specifically looking at some lore, kind of leading up into Diablo 4. We have this nice kind of like family-ish sort of tree here that I just kind of want to take the time. We're going to go through each individual, being on this list and just trying to give a nice kind of 5 to 10 minute kind of breakdown on who they are and kind of what we've seen them in so far in the game. So there will be some spoilers up through Diablo 3 and into Diablo Immortal, which before timeline wise. So I just kind of want to get a good feel for what we're going to be going into Diablo 4. That way, when you start seeing these names kind of popping up in either text or lore books or something like that, then you kind of know what's going on. Let's get into it. All right, and where better to start than at the very beginning? Let's try and do this kind of cosmological kind of breakdown on how this entire universe sort of started in the Diablo lore. Basically, we started with one being that was kind of what the inside of a sphere, a portal, or whatever we want to call it, and it was this being called Anu. And yes, you can definitely look up that it's got some roots and some, actual historical writings and stuff like that, as being one of the very first sort of divine beings spoke or written about in time. So this being here basically, lived, subsided, had its own self-existence, full of what was determined to be good virtues and the sin virtues. And basically, Anu wanted to purify their self. There's no actual given gender, so if I say he or she, kind of both or neither are correct. It is maybe more appropriate, but let's kind of get that out of the way. If I say one or the other, just kind of genderless. So this being tries to purify itself by separating these kind of what would call like sin natures away from itself. So to keep just the purity that would be the light side as we know it today. So with this, when they separated, there was a time in which that kind of worked, but the evil part kind of decided to come together in a way and created the dark being the first prime evil, which encapsulated all of the evil, and that was Tathamet. And so the two of them ended up waging a war that lasted millennia, just kind of an indescript amount of time, in which the two fought, in which they both somewhat were in a stalemate, because it was somewhat like 50% of Anu apparently was good and bad. I don't know, or at least power-wise. And once these two kind of had this battle, they ended up kind of like both landing a killing blow at around the same time. So with that happening, Anu's kind of body went and did kind of two things that are super important for us kind of going forward. We were left with his eye, which basically is what the World Stone is, the remnant of that. And if you don't know what that is, we will definitely cover that. It's going to be a very integral part of the story going forward, and was prominent through the games if you've played 1, 2, 3. So part of his body became the World Stone there, and then the other part, his spine, is kind of what created this kind of arch, and is what the heavens were kind of built around. So when the arch kind of like has that kind of ringing out tone for the angels, that's part of Anu's spine, and so very much still attached to these kind of angelic creatures that are basically parts of him, and his kind of virtues that he felt were the pure ones. And once again, we can kind of see those here in our little family tree of Imperius, Tyrael, Ariel, Ethereal, and Malthael. And those would be the aspects or the virtues of valor, justice, hope, fate, and wisdom. So those were the kind of the embodiments of Anu himself that kind of got passed down to these kind of lead angels called the Angiris Council going forward. Anyway, I hope that kind of gave you enough information on Anu. That way, going forward, anytime you kind of hear that name, you kind of have a background for them. If you like what I'm doing here, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. And that's been my 2 cents.